Today I've got a full hero guide for Skogul. Is she worth going for? And if so, what's the best artifact, hero pairing, the best pet, the best talents? This video covers it all, so stick around for all the things you need to know about the very impressive Skogul. Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and this video is sponsored by the makers of Call of Dragons. And when you enter into Season 2+, you'll have the opportunity from the lucky spins to pick up Skogul. And in my opinion, she is probably one of the strongest infantry heroes in the game. In fact, she was released with Goresh. I think it's no secret the two were designed to be paired together. However, if you were splitting them up, I'm pretty sure Skogul is the better one to go for if you were going to pick only one. So in this video, we'll cover all the reasons why that's the case, and you can use the timestamps in the description to navigate to whichever part you're most interested in. Let's start with the skills. The skills on Skogul are unusual. She's going to buff herself for 6 seconds, giving herself a vigor boost of 15% and blood fury, which makes it so she does extra counterattacks. And that lasts for a full 6 seconds. Now, the more things you do these extra counterattacks to, the less damage you'll deal per counterattack. And technically, this only works to legions that are at close range, but that is approximately the range of a Spring Warden ranged cavalry unit, or effectively 2 bases, like when you march a unit out and they put a green circle around it, 2 bases of distance away from Skogul is what the range is going to be for these extra counterattacks. So she's designed to get up close and personal. Can she do that? Well, she's got 20% attack and 10% hit points. On the next skill, she has 60% march speed when you are charging at an enemy to get into combat, and she also gets 1% attack every time she counterattacks, leading up to 25% total extra attack. So far, I mean, she's pretty punchy and a little bit of defensive stats to go with it. She also has a 10% chance to heal when she's hit, giving you a 350 factor heal triggered once every 5 seconds. Now, when awakened, that's maxing literally every skill, you get an extra 10% counterattack. I think if you're going to work on Skogul over time, maxing the first 2 skills is the way to go, giving you, of course, the full active skill, but then some solid defensive stats here. 10% hit points seems very important to me. From there, I kind of don't care where the points go. They either go into guerrilla tactics or tough as nails. Both are fine. So just make sure that you leave your Skogul at about 2 stars until you max the first 2 skills. Then I took her all the way up to 5 stars. Now, this brings us to the talents, and there is, I think, a pretty obvious build, and I don't know that there are many variations that I would do on this one build. To build Skogul, you go for March Speed and Health in your foundation. You're going to get this core talent, which gives you 1% attack and 5% speed. From there, I think it's important to make her as tanky as possible. You take 4% less hero skill damage. You get a little bit of mobility when your unit count is low. You could theoretically, because she has a heal, increase your healing over here. And whether or not you take that will depend on whether or not you pair with Garwood. And I think Garwood is a fine pairing. From there, the alternative is more normal attack damage. I mean, that's just not how you're getting the majority of your damage, so I skipped it. You're going to want to take Furious, assuming that you go for her Spiritbone Torc artifact, which is what I'm going to recommend. If you do not go for that artifact, then take Cool-Headed for the defense boost. From there, you take All Conquering. Your Legion takes 4% less normal attack damage. That's exactly on plan. Deal more counterattack damage with Last Word. That is exactly on plan for what this unit is trying to do. And then I really like Flank Protection, taking less bonus damage from being surrounded. Now look, technically you can only be surrounded by infantry and cavalry. I still think this is worth it. If you are playing your infantry correctly, you're going to be hit by many things all at once, in which case encouraging dance does literally nothing for you. You used to be able to run infantry with this talent, and I used to recommend it very highly because skirmishes were much smaller and you weren't as surrounded. Now that everybody has more troops, infantry get swarmed like crazy, bro. this is the talent to pick, Flank Protection. From there, Iron Will. Now, Iron Will depends a little bit on who you're pairing with. Iron Will makes it so that buffs from your rage skills are extended by 1 second. Well, her whole rage skill is buffs, and they're very good. So assuming you pair with another hero that's going to buff you with rage skills, like Goresh, for example, even Hosk, for example, you definitely would want Iron Will. The alternative is Ready for Battle, and man, it ain't bad. If you were pairing with another hero that doesn't get the benefit of giving buffs from their active skill and wouldn't benefit from Iron Will, you could definitely take Ready for Battle, and extra counterattacks are not bad in this situation. I mean, they're always in style for infantry. So from here, we go into the PvP tree. I feel March speed is very critical because she doesn't really have any except when she charges. So get the overall speed of 10%, take the 2% health, and take Luck of the Draw, which makes it so that when you're launching counterattacks, you get more tanky. You'll get 3% less damage taken. And then lastly, I took just a little bit more counterattack in the PvP tree. That's it. That's how I build my Skogul. You could theoretically put points into this extra heal, especially if you go fully in on Garwood healing synergy. I would not hate that choice. But for the most part, I really feel like this is your build. I don't think you're trying to go for the mobility tree. The synergy with infantry and the infantry tree is just too good. Go for that. So this brings us, by the way, to how do you pair Skogul? I think the obvious pair is Goresh. In my opinion, Goresh has better talents in the tank tree. So you use Goresh as the primary and Skogul as the secondary. That's what I'm planning to do this season. And I feel like, I mean, look, I'm dueling for merit and I am beating mages in 1v1s, which is insane. Lily Velen was destroying me in 1v1s last season. And now I'm the one doing the destroying with infantry. That's completely insane. Goresh and Skogul, I feel, are your best bet. That said, I think your second best bet for Skogul is to just get as tanky as you possibly can. To do that, I think you pair with Garwood. Garwood active skill is going to give you a damage taken reduction, so even with Garwood, you get really good benefit from that infantry talent that gives you an extra duration of damage reduction, like 1 second more of that's really nice. The healing synergy exists. It's actually really good. The only anti-synergy here is that typically with Garwood, you want the Stripe Bear. And the problem with that is that it's not going to stack the Stripe Bear buff for health with the Vigor buff that you have on Skogul. So that's fine. Just don't use a Stripe Bear. Easy choices. Garwood is, I think, the number 2 pick for a pairing with Skogul. Perhaps, however, an equally strong pick might just be the Madeline. Madeline with Skogul seems really good. So you're going to get an attack buff over here, which, all right, I mean, technically that physical keen attack buff would benefit from an extra second of duration. In addition, you get a little bit of damage dealt, counterattack, extra troops, some hit points. Yeah, I mean, Madeline and Garwood, actually both of them paired with Skogul seem great. The next pair that I'll talk about, and I would put this probably at number 4 in terms of the strength of pairing, is going to be Hosk. Now, look, I'm prepared to be wrong. I am prepared for Hosk to actually be busted. Here's how that would work. If you have an awakened Hosk, the thing that he'll do is increase your counterattack crit rate by an upwards of 30%. Well, when you're doing extra counterattacks, 30% crit on counterattacks is a lot of damage. So if this is going to work, and I'm not confident it will, then what you do is you've probably got to use the Hosk as the secondary for the Skogul talent trees. I mean, I guess you could use overall talents. I just don't love the overall talents. We could go in and figure that out. I mean, I'm actually just like really curious what that would be. So if we went in and we did an overall tree with Hosk, could you get good enough talents? I like the health. I think this is fine. You'd definitely take March speed over here. The overall tree is really kind of where it's at. Dealing hero skill damage ain't it. Normal attack damage, I mean, is okay. I guess you could take War Banner, but I just don't love this talent. It's really good at the start of the season, really bad at the end of the season. You already, I guess you don't have a resistance effect. You could go for Rage Gain, When your legion's hit with a normal attack, you gain 4 rage, but that only triggers once a second. I'm going to assume you're getting so swarmed, you just don't need the rage that way, so we go for the resistance. Increase your healing and shielding, that ain't it. I suppose you could increase your damage. I'm going to assume you're getting hit so much, you just don't need extra rage. Reduce your Sev Wounded is always a win. And then from here, giving yourself haste is fine. Your Legion magic units, that ain't it. Your Cav units, I guess you have to go for the haste, which I don't love. And then 2% damage when you're low actually seems fine to me. So, I mean, you could do this. I'm just not in love with what you could do with the talents for Hosk. Now, why am I proposing Hosk as the primary? Because 25% defense when he is the primary actually would be pretty legit. That is super legit. It almost makes it, I mean, would it be worth it for the inferior talents? I don't know. You get extra Legion capacity over here. It's possible the counterattacks are just busted. It is possible the crit on the counterattack is just busted, and that's the jam. The final infantry pair I would say that we could get a look at is Nika. Nika has fallen completely out of the meta. The reason she's fallen out of the meta is that infantry are getting swarmed like crazy, and this is especially true in statue fights where you're going to get 10x swarmed at least. And in that instance, yeah, she's got counterattack, but like not enough tanky stats to offset. So I don't think Nika's where it's at. I don't think Thea's where it's at because you don't really have synergy with the skill damage dealt over here. So that mostly just leaves you at this point with Epics, Eliana, Bakar. I mean, by the time you're in Season 2+, your focus ought to be on primarily using legendaries. Once your legendary is presumably in the realm of 5/5/1/1, it probably ends up being better than an epic, but there could certainly be exceptions to that. In fact, the exception I would certainly believe to be true is Bakar, because he has a chance to make enemies bleed when you get low, and that's actually just really insane. So anyways, I think that covers the best pairings at the top end. Skogul and Goresh. Just below that, either Madeline or Garwood paired with Skogul is going to be really, really good. So, and then Hosk is just this big question mark. So from here, we can talk about pets. And now we can go to my roster instead of the Roots of War section, where that's a great place to mess around with talents. In the Pet Sanctuary, I think your number one pick here, I mean, the more I think about it, the more I think that this is true. Your number one pick here is going to be the Venomous Lizard. When you're hit with normal attacks, you have a chance to poison an enemy. I think that's where it's at. The more things that are hitting you, the better this becomes. I have not yet found a 1-star Venomous Lizard, so I have not yet invested in one. I have passively just been leveling up this Venomous Lizard at a 0-star talent skill. This is really the pick. The secondary pick is a Sand Lizard for healing, but I just don't think that's where you want to be. I have one. I built it for Sindri and Frhagar. Then they released a pet that's even better for Sindri and Frhagar. So now I'm working on that instead. And this pet that I invested so much into probably just ends up getting benched until I'm out of stamina, and then I swap it in. So why am I saying all of that? Well, just keep in mind that if we follow the same pattern of next season getting the previous hero's pet available, it is possible that next season we get a pet that is even better than the Venomous Lizard, specifically for counterattacks. Because although the Venomous Lizard does seem like an ideal fit, the Venomous Lizard is about getting hit by attacks. And it's true that if you pick the artifact I'm going to recommend, you might get hit more. But if they release a pet that's more about counterattacks, I'm telling you, it is going to be so much better for Skogul Goresh. You're going to go for that instead. So for now, Venomous Lizard is the pick. That's what I'll be doing. And I probably end up investing in it and hope I don't regret that when a new pet comes next season, presumably. I mean, we don't know. I'm just guessing. So from here, we talk about artifacts, baby. And there are several artifacts we need to talk about. The first artifact is, of course, the Spiritbone Torc. This is literally designed for the combo. It was released with them. It gives you a base of 20% counterattack all the time, which is very good. That's for infantry specifically, however. In addition, when you activate it, you get 600 rage and taunt 5 surrounding legions for 5 seconds when this is maxed. You also get 30% defense and 10% less normal attack damage taken for 30 seconds. And gosh bless, I am on the doorstep of getting this to 5 skill levels. But I'm all out of keys, and we'll probably end up, I mean, we'll see. I probably end up spending over 100,000 gems to get this to the max. We'll see. I might do that in this video. I probably will. It's going to be expensive if I do that. The next best alternative, depending on who you pair with, is either going to be, especially if you pair with Madeline, the Dragon Scale Armors. Very good choice. If you're pairing Skogul and Madeline, like, you honestly kind of don't need to go for the Spiritbone Torc if you already have the Dragon Scale Armor. Like, you can pick and choose your battles. I plan to use 2 infantry marches, which is why I went for a Spiritbone Torc and the Dragon Scale Armor. The sort of free-to-play alternative to all of that is just go with a Fang of Ashkari. It's got defense, and it's so good. The next alternative that has defense is the Greymar's Warhammer. The weirdness of this one is that the whole point of this legion is that you're doing counterattack. So if you stun 5 nearby things around you, they aren't attacking you, so you can't counterattack them. So, like, Greymar's has a weird anti-synergy with Skogul, but I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying just be aware of that anti-synergy when you're using it. From here, you've got the Dragon Rift and Springs of Silence. These give you attack stats, which is not what you want on your infantry. You're really trying to just survive for as long as you can. So that's why the defense on the Spiritbone Torc or the health on the Dragon Scale Armor is, in my opinion, the freaking jam. That's what you do. If you're going to use these heroes, those are the artifacts you pick. Now, we have a Forge of Light. And I max purchased the Forge of Light. I came in with a bunch of keys already. And I was only able to get, unfortunately, to 4 skill levels. Now, I would assume that if this follows the same pattern that we've seen in the past, that in the next season, at the start of the season, we'll see a new mage artifact. And the developers did release that mages are next. I covered that in a separate video. Card will be in the end screen. If we're getting those mages, the Forge of Light for that is probably going to have the new mage artifact plus the Spiritbone Torc, assuming it follows the same pattern we see here, where the 2 pity artifacts are Spiritbone Torc and Oath of the Storm Peak. So Oath of the Storm Peak was the new hotness from last season. So I technically don't need to do this now if I assume that, like, I could just get it next season. But I'm going to be a weirdo, and I'm going to spend the gems for content. So if you could do me the honor of throwing a like on the video, I'm about to probably get wrecked. Why do I say that? Well, you go to pity after 90 pulls. 90 pulls, you're looking at 54,000 gems. If I go to full pity on this thing, that's 54,000 gems times 3. Please, for the love of all that is holy, please let me get this before I go to full pity. This is painful. I regret doing this before doing it. We're going to go for it. There's 6,000 gems. Oh boy. There's 12,000 gems. Hiya. I don't know about this. Do I just turn around now? Once you start, it's kind of like you should go to the full pity to get the thing that you wanted to get. There's 30 pulls. There's 40 pulls. Oh, boy. Here's 50 pulls. All right. Well, here's 60 pulls. I am getting wrecked. Oh, no. 70 pulls. Are we going to the first full pity? Oh, no. 80 pulls. Okay. If this is the Spiritbone Torc, I feel good about life. Son of a gun. All right. We are in the process of getting wrecked. 80 pulls so far. Here's 90. Here's 100. Oh, God. 110. Okay, 120. 120. Yeah, no, this is what I would expect. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 120. 130. Okay. 140. Great. 150. Yeah, we are getting absolutely raffle stomped. 160. Not great. This is not a good situation. Son of a gun! OMFG. Well, now it's guaranteed. So it's just a question of how many pulls is it till I get it. 170. 180. 190. Jeez, bro. 200. Hiya. 210. Bro. Okay. 220. 230. GG. We get it. It's done. And there it is. 230. So, yeah. 138,000 gems. Let's go get a look at what I just bought. That was my expectation of what that was going to be. That's like squarely how I expected that would go. So we now have a level 5, at least, over here. That's good. Did I at least get the courtesy? I mean, at least the courtesy of also maxing out the other artifact so that I could play around with it. I don't know that I did. Maybe I did. Let's find out. I did not. GG. So I don't even have the courtesy of a maxed Oath of Storm Peak to play around with. I can get it to 4 skills. I could play around with that, I guess. But, like, still didn't even finish this guy as well, which would have been a nice consolation prize. Ooh, boy. Yeah, so that's where I'm at. At least my Spiritbone Torc is maxed. But now I'm out of gems. So I'm going to go drown out my sorrows for a bit. Doing I don't know what yet. Something to drown out sorrows. GG. So many gems. Oh, man. That Forge of Light ran me, I think, 1,200 in bundles, plus the raw gems I dropped. Plus I pulled a few for gems before. At least 150,000 gems. So that's like, you know, another 600 in actually spending the gems from the bundles. Yeah, I mean, that's a thing. But at least my Spiritbone Torc is maxed. And I'm going to use Skogul. And I'm going to keep working on her. If you want to see how my spins went for Skogul, cards in the end screen. If you want to see why it is that mages are definitely up next, and when the developer said that, card in the end screen for that one in just a second. Until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom. I smashed my wallet. You have fun smashing the kingdom.